Hello there, my students, and welcome to my eccentric academy. Today, we are doing a tangent study, a show in which there's a whole lot of tangenting, not a whole lot of studying, but we do watch episodes of Star Trek and we try and figure out what there is in those episodes that we can apply to our lives. So today we are watching the Star Trek Voyager episode entitled Faces.
Belana Torres, wake up.
And we have the shortest cold open in all of Star Trek history. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just saying things. That was very short. I am remembering this episode. I remember I do not care for it especially. But we'll see how I feel about it now. Opinions may have changed since I last watched this.
Don't thank me. I'm having a marvelous time experimenting with the native dishes of the entire crew. So far, I've learned to make corn salad for Mr. Chakotay and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for Mr. Paris.
Oh boy. Um, it's a little rough that they had Chicote eat corn salad. It's a little bit, I don't know.
I tried following the recipe in the computer's databank, but it's so bland. So I took the liberty of spicing it up a bit. Call it plonique soup a la Neelix.
I must point out that if you take the liberty of changing a time-honored recipe, you are hardly presenting a taste of home.
Senior officers, please report to the bridge.
I feel like that's a good point. If you just alter the thing to the point where it's no longer recognizable as the thing, then you can no longer call it the thing, right? And I feel like this is something that happens with, say, Marvel movies, right? You have, or like, let's take the X-Men movies. You have the X-Men movies, and then you tell people, oh, you should love the X-Men movies because you love X-Men. But the truth is that there's very little in common with those initial X-Men movies with the comic books. You have the same character names and like general concept. However, tone-wise, I feel those X-Men movies are very different than comic books. If you take Batman and say, have him killing people with guns, not that anyone would ever make Batman do that, but if you did, can you really call it Batman? And sure, you can call it Batman because it's technically a character called Batman, but I would make the argument that your version of Batman that is wielding guns and killing thugs, he's missing a essential part of the Batman character. And that makes it so I will not be as interested in that version of Batman. You've taken away the parts of Batman that I really like. Anyway, that's our first super tangent of the day, so let's keep moving.
Oh, there's no place like home.
I'm not sure if that response was supposed to be that Neelix does like it or doesn't like it. Either way, it's kind of funny.
It's very important to us. Do you understand?
Oh, hey, Dev Ross is in this. Ah, ah. Dude, even though at the time of this recording, I'm not doing any Doctor Who reviews, I do keep sneaking Doctor Who into my reviews. But look at that. Does that not look like Dev Ross? He's just missing his forehead eye.
I am Sulan, Chief Surgeon of the Vidian Sodality.
Vidians. Yeah. Yeah, I like the concept of the Vidians. I think I think they're quite good in a very creepy way. I also like that they aren't um particularly evil, right? Our first episode with the Vidians, they come to a pretty good understanding of each other by the end. And I like that.
You've surgically altered my face. I look like a Klingon.
I've performed no surgery.
Yeah, not a big fan of this concept. For one thing, it's very sort of Flash Gordon, where it just it lacks some realism in that I don't think you could actually pull this off in reality. You know, that's like if you pulled the Irish part of me out and then like all of a sudden there was a normal Caedmon David and an Irish Caedmon David. And Irish Caedmon David was like, "Oh, top of the morning. I'm gonna go eat some potatoes if you don't mind." Right? Like it's just very silly. And if you like sort of mix it in with any real world like sort of implications, it just ends up being more silly. With that being said, I do understand sort of the story they're trying to tell, where Balana doesn't like the Klingon part of her and she kind of has to come to terms with that part of her. I think that's a cool story. I don't think this way of telling it really makes sense. Um, I also don't find her Klingon voice to really, I don't know, it's again, you pull out Irish Cademan out of me, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, my Irish Cademan," you know? Like, that just wouldn't be how it works. It's kind of, um, I don't know. I just don't care for the story, so we'll see where it goes. It might be redeemed in my mind, but as of this point, don't really care for it.
I believe your genetic structure has phage-resistant nucleotide sequences, yes.
Yeah, see, this, while I might not be fully on board with the concept of this episode, it does make sense for the Klingons to be immune to the disease. Because, you know, all throughout Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, as well as this show, we hear about how Klingons altered themselves to make themselves stronger, and you know they're genetically modified to have extra hearts and all these extra things to make them stronger. So that part of the story does fit very well within continuity, and I think it's good. Yeah, I don't want to be too critical of the actress, but I do have to say that like her version of the Klingon in this episode feels very cartoonish to me, and um you know, it's like, I get it. It's a sort of fine line to walk where you want a Klingon to like sound a little bit tribal and barbaric, but yeah, this performance just feels very cartoonish. And also, like, I know she wasn't casted to play this character. I don't know, it does sort of negatively affect the episode, in my opinion.
We've got to find a way out of this place.
Agreed. But I don't want to do anything until we find out what they've done with Balana.
Hey, I feel like you could interpret that through like sort of, you know how like in comic books sometimes things will become canon later on, and then like you can read things from the past into that present story. This I think is an example of that, where obviously eventually they do a romance between Tom Paris and B'Elanna Torres, And I am certain that at this point they had no plans to do that. But I do feel like this is a line that you could kind of look at and be like, "Oh, maybe he's starting to have feelings for her."
You?
Really? How's that?
Nobody ever escapes from this place. Those Vidian leeches can yank the beating heart out of you.
I love the fact that he's a Neelix, whatever Neelix's species is. Yeah, I just love the sort of continuity of like, this is an established alien species instead of a brand new one. With that being said, probably part of it is because they already knew how to do the Neelix prosthetics. I don't know, it's cool. And for the entirety of the rest of this episode that I have to refer to this character, I will call him Joker Neelix. Because he seems like a fun guy.
I thought those Vidians were in the business of harvesting organs. How come we're all still in one piece?
The disease makes them weak. They need somebody to dig their tunnels. That's us.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Instead of taking them just to harvest their organs, they're actually taking them to make them do manual labor. Um, yeah, adds up.
When they grabbed us, there was a woman with us. Belana Torres. Any idea what might have happened to her?
If she's not here, she's been taken to organ processing.
Again, I would like to just sort of, look at this from the lines of like, that eventually Tom Paris and Balana, uh, do have a romance in this show. And again, you can read part of why he's so worried for her as being that sort of romantic interest in her. This is, I feel, a good time to talk about Klingons. So, a number of the Klingons are played by white people and wear makeup to make them look less white. So, yeah, so like here, you can clearly see Balana. They gave her, dark face paint. And to me, this just really seems unnecessary. In my head, there can be light skinned Klingons and dark skinned Klingons, it only makes sense. But at the same time, I could also see the argument for blackface and or whiteface being allowed in movies, and that's gonna be the most controversial thing here. But I think let's take Orlando Bloom from the Lord of the Rings movies, right? Orlando Bloom has brown hair, right? They gave him a blonde wig, and that's seen as being fully appropriate. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is as long as we treat skin color like being this more sacred thing than just part of how you look, the more issues we'll have. With that being said, I do also understand sort of the stigma of blackface and all that. And I think, like actual true blackface is not great. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is interesting that they wanted to give all of the Klingons the same look, so they changed their skin colors. And I can see an argument for doing that, and I can see an argument for not doing it. But as far as like, I don't know, to me, with Klingons in particular, they're like an entire species of Klingons. Like we're an entire species of humans, and we come in all sorts of different colors. So, I don't know. Take that how you will. That's probably gonna be the most controversial part of this video. Anyway, Yeah, so there's another little tangent for you.
It's going to take more than an infection to kill me.
See, and this is my issue with this. Because Klingons are like awesome warrior Spartan types, and that's cool, right? But it becomes less cool when you have sort of that sort of endurance to pain be a genetic thing instead of the training that Klingons have to go through. So I and that's my issue with this concept really overall is it's like I love Klingons. I think they're one of the coolest things in Star Trek and maybe in all of science fiction. But I feel like this makes more of their culture genetic and it actually makes everything less interesting.
So I'll tell you that Klingons find honor as warriors on the battlefield, not as guinea pigs in a laboratory.
See, and that sounds like something a Klingon would say. But that doesn't sound like something B'Elanna would say. That making this moment be like, oh, Klingons say the things they do just because of their genetics, which kind of racist. I don't know.
I believe Klingons are the most impressive species I have ever seen.
He really likes Klingons too. Hey, stop waking me up. I'm sleeping on some sound blocking foam. There's the human half. So yeah, the big reveal that they were split into two people, one one Klingon, one human, uh, and they're both here existing, which, you know, to be fair, that did happen with me when I created Irish Cademan David. Top of the morning! It's kind of interesting seeing that actress with, like, more heavy makeup and prosthetics, and then seeing her with a lot less. And it's sort of an interesting where like you could draw like an evolution where it's like half Klingon or human B'Elanna, half Klingon B'Elanna, full Klingon B'Elanna. But yeah, overall this story. Yeah, but overall this story just isn't working for me.
That they had completely extracted my Klingon DNA.
It doesn't seem possible.
Well, I mean, you know, Tom Paris and I do agree on something here.
I did everything I could to hide my forehead. Hats, scarves, you name it.
How does a scarf hide your forehead? I guess if you like wrap it around your forehead like a bandana, then that works. Yeah. Also, I guess this is a good time to reveal that I'm wearing these goggles to hide my Klingon forehead.
My father left, and then I finally decided that he left because I looked like a Klingon, and so I tried to look human.
Wait. So, I guess B'Elanna's mother was a Klingon then? Because I always thought the father was a Klingon. But this is an opportunity to enter into the Google machine and see what we can find. Okay, so it looks like that's correct. John Torres is a human. So what about her mother? Huh. Okay, yeah, so all this time I had backwards. B'Elanna, a half human, half Klingon, had a human father, Klingon mother. This is why in this scene she says that she thought her father left because she was too Klingon. Um, that's interesting. I feel like it would make more sense if the conflict was of her father, a Klingon, left, and then because of that, she blamed Klingonness for her father leaving and blamed all Klingons for the behavior of her father. That sort of makes more sense to me, but it's interesting nonetheless.
If these caves were changing configuration while we were here, we certainly would have felt it.
True, Commander. But I do not believe there has been any tectonic activity. I believe this wall is merely an illusion, a disguised force field.
Yeah, and this is consistent with their technology that we saw in their first episode, Phage. Them being the Bedians.
My people were once handsome and vigorous like yours, and with your help, we will be again. Perhaps when that time comes, I will not disgust you quite so much as I do now.
Yeah, our bodies are constantly dying, but what you're gonna help us do is look pretty again. This guy is very funny. I think he needs to get his priorities straight.
I thought perhaps this new face would make you more comfortable with me.
You've killed him.
Yes, B'Elanna. But his organs will save more than a dozen lives.
I do really like just how creepy that is. You know, it's very Joker-esque. It's cool. I like it. It's weird. It's very weird. I will say, it does a very good job of, like, painting a theme. Because, like, the theme is faces, and what is your face if not your identity? You know, the part of you that everyone sees, and, like, sort of, like, maybe you don't like what your face says about you, and maybe you wish you could have a different face. Right, and that's with B'Elanna wishing that she had a human face, or this Vidian wishing that he had a human face. It's very interesting, and good theming, I think.
Dermal stimulator, please.
Remarkable work, Doctor.
If you think this is remarkable, you should see me remove a bunion.
It's funny. Again, I'm talking about the theming, how the Vidian takes off a human's face so he can use it for his face. While Chakotay, a human, is being made to look like he has a Vidian face. Sort of ties into the theming again. It's interesting.
Rest while you can. The guard won't be back right away.
Oh, hey, Joker Neelix is back. You know, I just wanted to talk about that because I wanted a chance to say Joker Neelix.
I was terrified.
No one could blame you for that.
Yeah, see, this is more of what I'm talking about. I don't buy that Klingons are brave because it's in their genetics. I think that Klingons are brave because they're trained to be that way and choose to be that way because of their culture. And that's the big issue I have with this episode, is it just doesn't add up to me that Klingons are, you know, sort of angry and stuff like that because of their genetics. I think it's a cultural thing.
But they took her back to the barracks.
A human female?
Tom Paris is with a human female? How dare he? That's my human. You ever, like, you're in public and you see someone who you think is your friend, and then you're, like, about to say hi, you know? And then, like, you get close enough to realize that they're not your friend, and it's just awkward. I feel like that's what would happen here with B'Elanna being a human. Why is her hair so much longer? That's my question. I also don't really care for the implication here being that, like, human women are just, like, weak and scared. I find that kind of annoying. And that's not trying to, like, say that the show is sexist or anything like that. I don't think it is. I think that it is. I think that it does kind of feel that way a little bit, though. You know, it's like, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? I ask you like you can actually answer me. Yeah, it's just because like, Tom Paris is able to be brave in this situation, and he's a human, but then B'Elanna, she has to be a Klingon in order for her to be brave. I don't know. I don't like it. That's all I'm getting at.
No wonder I got kicked out of the academy, for which you should be eternally grateful.
Yeah, again, it just pings so many issues of her being like, no wonder I got kicked out of the academy. So it's like a Klingon couldn't make it in Starfleet Academy. I don't know. Again, I like the story metaphorically, where she's like, "Oh, I don't like the parts of myself that make me feel Klingon," but the story just doesn't work. The parts of her that are Klingon are like genetic. It's I don't know. It doesn't work for me. That's all I have to say. Is it doesn't work for me.
We can't go to the prison barracks. There are too many guards there. In the lab, where they were holding me, there was a security console.
She just forgets to do her Klingon voice. No, it is kind of nice, like her learning to work with her Klingon side. And again, I appreciate the metaphor of like, you need, like, instead of just like divorcing yourself from the parts of you that you don't like, actually learn how to um make those parts of you work towards good. So it's again, I appreciate the metaphor of this episode. It's just the sort of implications of like how Klingons are and how humans are is what's not working for me.
You're right. But if you do not surrender, I will kill her.
So apparently, and I learned this from the Delta Flyers podcast. Shout out the Delta Flyers podcast. Um, but this actor, he actually played the human actor and the Vidian actor, and the Vidian. But then they 3D scanned his face so he could wear it as a prosthetic over his actual face, which is very funny.
Your cell's ability to synthesize proteins has been severely compromised. You need the Klingon genes to survive.
And she doesn't want to be half Klingon again. I don't know. It doesn't seem like how you want to end that story.
I'm incomplete. It doesn't feel like me.
Okay, so they're kind of turning it around, where she's like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm all here." Cool, I guess. Okay, everybody. This has been Tangent Studies Star Trek Voyager Faces. Yeah, not a huge fan of this episode. Again, I think there's tidbits and things to like about it, but as of a whole, I think there's more parts of it that don't add up and don't work for me than parts that do. But what did you think of this episode? Is it a meaningful episode to you? Is it a good episode to you? Um is it just kind of fun and you need to just sit back and laugh about it without thinking about it too hard? I don't know. I'd love to hear any of that you might want to share. And until next time, in the words of Christopher Eccleston, have a fantastic life. Bye bye.